Hey, so I'll try to keep this as short as possible. I, 22 female, have an older brother, 26 male, and he's been married to his girlfriend of 2 years for about 6 months. My brother and I don't get along at all and haven't been on good terms since high school when he spread a rumor about me that I was a kleptomaniac and people had to be wary of me. He did this because he was mad at me for telling his then girlfriend that he'd been flirting with another girl who had a bio with him. My brother was a bit of a playboy in high school and he had a reputation for messing around with multiple girls at a time because he thought that made him look cool. So when I told his then girlfriend that he'd been cheating on her, she confronted him in the cafeteria and there was a whole thing that went down where she totally humiliated him in front of all his cronies. He found out somehow that I tattled, and to retaliate, he spread that rumor about me. Of course, everyone believed him because he was 18 and a senior on the varsity football team. And I was just a 14-year-old freshman. He ruined the next couple of years of my life with that rumor because I was already kind of unattractive and dorky in high school with braces. So a rumor like this was the last thing I needed. I got bullied relentlessly for the next 4 years after my brother graduated, and I didn't even get to attend prom or homecoming or any of the other events because nobody wanted to be seen with me. That's how bad the bullying was. I had a couple of friends who were only with me because they'd also been bullied, so that was some solace. But still, my brother had totally ruined my high school experience with what he did, and it stayed with me. That kind of bullying is enough to scar anyone for life. And the saddest part was that I hadn't even offered that information to his girlfriend voluntarily. She cornered me after school one day and demanded to know if the other girl had anything to do with my brother. And I just got too intimidated because she was a senior and a lot bigger than me physically, so I told her the truth. I didn't want any trouble, and I also didn't want to lie because I felt that both the other girl and his girlfriend deserved better than to be cheated on. If I'd known that what I did that day would backfire in the worst possible way, then I probably would have just kept my mouth shut. That was back then, and after he started that rumor, I just stopped talking to him. I still had to live with him under the same roof, but that was it, and I tried my very best to avoid conversation with him at any cost. He moved out for college after a few months, but even when he'd come back home for the holidays, I'd avoid him like the plague. I wouldn't say I went no contact with him after I moved out because that wasn't possible because both of us would come back for the holidays and our parents had instructed us both to be on our best behavior around our relatives. So we tried our best to be civil to each other for our parents' sake, but that's about it. I didn't have any intention of attending his wedding either, but my mother told me that it'd be really strange if I didn't, and my parents care a lot about putting up appearances. So I did as they said, and I think I got lucky that I did, because that's how I found out about my sister-in-law's affair. My sister-in-law, Chloe, 28 female, I'm using a fake name for her, had been with my brother for 2 years before they got married. They'd met through a common friend. She'd never been very nice to me whenever we used to meet at holidays and stuff, and would always act stuck up. I didn't find that very surprising since she was my brother's girlfriend, so I never made an effort to get to know her either, and neither of us liked the other. On the day of her wedding, about half an hour after the ceremony was over and I'd had my lunch, I decided that it was time to leave. At the time, Chloe had told everyone that she was going back to the hotel to change into something more comfortable so she could join in on the celebration, and had been gone for 10 minutes when I took my leave. On my way to the parking lot, however, I caught her making out with one of my brother's friends, Marcus, in a desolate corner where nobody would be able to see them, but unfortunately, my car was parked a few spots away from where they were standing. I was stunned and didn't even know what to say, but then Chloe spotted me and tore away from Marcus as quickly as she could. I was frozen in my place and watched her push Marcus away and tell him to leave. He made a run for it and she decided to approach me. I didn't say a word while she talked to me and explained that while my brother was a wonderful guy and she knew that he'd always provide for her, her heart wanted something else, which just meant that my brother was rich enough for her to marry, but Marcus was the one she loved. I was repulsed because I always did look down on gold diggers. But then Chloe requested me to keep this quiet and she'd give me whatever I wanted. Something just clicked at that point and I decided that I wanted to get back at my brother for everything that he put me through. Had it been someone else that was getting cheated on, I would have definitely spoken up and let them know. But my brother himself had taught me the importance of staying silent sometimes. He'd been the one to teach me that just because you know things doesn't mean you have to say things back in high school. So I told Chloe that I'd keep quiet, but only if she'd be willing to pay me $1,000 every month. I knew that my brother made a decent amount of money and Chloe had a somewhat okay income as well, but it wasn't as much as my brother's. He's a data analyst and Chloe works at the front desk in a hotel, so they could definitely afford to spare $1,000 for me every month. Chloe had initially been a little resistant, but I reminded her that she herself had told me that she was ready to offer me anything, and I'd named my price, so the ball was now in her court. She could either agree to my terms and send me the money every month, or I could go and tell my brother everything. I was fine with either. She tried to negotiate, but I put my foot down and refused to back down, so eventually she had to agree. I've been working as an HR representative at a firm after I graduated from college, and I can live nicely. $1,000 isn't something I wouldn't be able to do without, but it definitely did help. Not only financially, but I also felt great knowing that I was getting back at my brother and his wife for being horrible to me. That's the way it had been for the last 6 months until last week. Marcus decided to pay me a visit out of the blue. I could see through the cameras outside that he'd bought a cake with him to make it look like it was my birthday or something, and I guessed that that's how he'd gotten past security, by saying it was a surprise. I didn't trust him at all and was skeptical about letting him into my apartment, so he spoke to me right from outside the door. Apparently, Chloe had finally told him about our little arrangement and he didn't like it. So he'd come over to talk to me and tell me that I needed to back off. He said that I couldn't just blackmail Chloe like this and told me that if I tried to get in touch with her again, then he'd make sure that I'd have hell to pay. I was really pissed off and told him to leave me alone, and he did, but only after he reminded me that he was capable of turning my life into a total nightmare if he put his mind to it. He left the cake for me at the door, and it said nothing apart from the B word in icing. I hate his guts, but I've got to hand it to him. He does know how to execute the theatrics just perfectly. After threatening me, Marcus went away, and I decided to make the call and inform my brother about what Chloe had been up to for God knows how long. I was furious that she'd even dared to send someone to threaten me, because as far as I was concerned, I was holding up my end of the deal well and hadn't breathed a word of what I'd caught her doing to anyone at all. And she'd had the audacity to let Marcus threaten me. I knew that she knew about Marcus's visit because after he left, I checked my phone to call her first, but I realized that she'd blocked me, which is why I decided to call my brother up. Fortunately, he did answer the call, and I told him everything, including the bribes, and said that now he could do whatever he wanted to with that information, and hung up before he could respond. Then I kept my phone aside and went for a short walk to clear my head. I came back to more than 50 texts and 10 missed calls from Chloe, accusing me of ruining her life. My mother had also called me, and I decided to call her back to understand what exactly was happening. Apparently, my brother had already suspected her of cheating because she'd been stupid enough to leave her phone unlocked around him several times, and he'd read a couple of texts from Marcus, but they weren't sus texts, so my brother didn't mind it. But he did question her on why exactly she'd speak to Marcus so often, because it's not like they were friends as far as he knew. She'd convinced him that they were friends now and it was all platonic, but today, after I told my brother what was going on behind his back, he confronted Chloe and realized that she'd been stringing him along all this while after he checked her phone. Now he's about to file for divorce and is absolutely devastated. My parents are furious with me because I enabled this for 6 whole months and want me to apologize to my brother and return the money to him because it's blackmail money. I don't agree with what they're saying at all because, first of all, I don't even think this is technically blackmail. She's the one who offered to do something for me. I know she probably meant to get me a spa treatment for free at the hotel or something less conspicuous than this, but this is what I wanted and she agreed to my terms. It wasn't blackmail, it was just a deal that his wife had struck up with me to keep her secret. Fair and square. So I don't understand what they're so up in arms about when it's Chloe they should be mad at right now. On top of that, the expectation that I'll apologize to my brother and return the money to him is absolutely ridiculous. I don't owe him either of those, and I'm definitely not going to do it. He was a jerk to me and ruined 4 years of my life with his stupid rumor, and I haven't been able to get over that still. As for the money, that's between Chloe and me, and since I held up my end of the deal, I think I'm definitely entitled to what I got, and I'm not paying anyone back. I told my parents that I wasn't doing either of those things, so now they're threatening to cut me out of their lives for good because I've turned into someone they don't recognize anymore. It's been a week and I haven't yet spoken to them, but they remind me every day that what I did was really messed up, but I honestly don't think so. AITA for taking bribes from my sister-in-law to hide her affair from my brother because my brother started a rumor about me in high school? Update 1. Hi, so I did what everyone here suggested and I decided to go no contact with my family. This incident finally made me realize that my parents were also just as bad as my brother, and I'm actually better off without all of them. They just suck and haven't ever been nice or kind to me. Everything they used to do was just to make it seem like we were a happy family on the surface, but I know the truth. I know that they never stood up for me and let me get bullied for years without a word because they didn't want to get into it. They never reprimanded my brother either for starting the rumor because of the same reason, and dismissed it as normal sibling rivalry when they could see very clearly that he'd made me suffer badly. Nobody had bullied him after his girlfriend yelled at him in the cafeteria. It was just one bad day for him, but to retaliate for one bad day, he ruined 4 years of my life, and even then, I continued to try and act normal around him just for the sake of my parents because I wanted to be a good daughter to them. Just for some crumbs of affection and validation, but I'm not going to get any of that. Even my brother and I were close growing up and only grew apart when he started high school because he was suddenly too cool for his little sister, and I was too dorky to be seen with him. So really, my entire family has been nothing but shallow and cruel, and I'm actually glad that I'm finally done with them. They were never going to love me, and they were never going to change. Even with this incident, they found a scapegoat and tried to make me the bad guy without even caring about why I'd done what I'd done. Had they tried to fix things for me back when I was suffering, or intervened and made my brother be a decent freaking person to me, then maybe I wouldn't have done something so extreme and unnecessary to him just for revenge. But they don't care about my past. All they care about is that I ruined my brother's future and his marriage. I'm selfish, I'm heartless, and I'm a criminal, and so much more. But he's just their perfect little boy who, by the way, is in his late 20s. I was foolish to ever expect that my family would be kind to me. And I was an even bigger fool to continue to stay in touch with my brother after what he did to me, just so that my parents wouldn't be mad at me. I should have just cut him off after I moved out for college and let that be the end of whatever little relationship we still had. But as they say, every cloud has a silver lining, so I'm going to choose to look at the bright side of this. Karma finally got him, and now he's going to experience the pain that he'd put so many girls and women through during his high school and college days, just so that he could appear cool and desirable to his other lame guy friends. The cheater finally gets cheated on. Life has come full circle for him. All I'm going to do is just grab the popcorn and wait for the drama to unfold, because I've earned this. It's not like I'm walking away totally empty-handed, because my sister-in-law's Bribes still covered half of my rent for a couple of months, and it was great while it lasted. So right now, I have no regrets to speak of. It's been 2 weeks since I put up my original post, and thank you to everyone who commented, because that did help a lot more than I expected. I mulled over it, sulked about it, and even wept a lot, but finally, I did manage to block all my family members everywhere I could. I've also told security not to let any of my family visit me, so there's just no way they can get to me unless I choose to let them. As for Marcus and Chloe, they've pretty much been MIA ever since the news broke. I have no updates on them since we don't have any friends in common. I can still get updates on what my family is up to from time to time from a couple of cousins of mine, but I have no clue about them. In a way, it's quite relaxing since I don't have to worry about anyone now and can just live the way I want to without giving a damn about my parents. I feel a lot less burdened than I used to, and I love this feeling. I don't need any of them back either. Update 2. Okay, quick update. I just learned that the reason Chloe has been so quiet is because she's pregnant. And things are really messy right now between her and my brother, but my parents are obviously blaming me for it. One of my cousins who still follows them on Facebook sent me a post by my dad where he named and shamed me for ruining my brother's marriage over some petty high school grudge. It's not my brother's fault that he was cheating back then, and neither is it Chloe's fault that she'd been cheating on my brother. It's all somehow my fault. He's posted about what has happened, but has left out all the important details, including the fact that Chloe was the one who had tried to make a deal with me first, and not the other way around. It's not like I caught her with Marcus and then forced her to cough up money every month, or else I'd spill the beans. I didn't even have that idea until she made an offer, so they really can't use the term blackmail here. That's literally just ridiculous. And my older relatives, my aunts and uncles who are around my parents' age or older, are obviously on their side because A, they don't know my side of the story, and B, even if they knew, they wouldn't care because my parents have made it very clear that I'm the one at fault here and I'm the one who needs to be put in my place. So they've taken it upon themselves to send me several texts expressing their disappointment and disgust regarding my actions, and they're even saying that they expected better from me. Which is just so crazy because literally, who even are these people? They only ever used to care about me during the holidays, and even then our conversations would be strained and weird. I don't consider my extended family close at all, so it's ridiculous that they even expect something from me. They don't even know me well enough to expect anything. Let's start there. And my dad hasn't put up the story about how I got bullied relentlessly because of my brother's rumor. He's conveniently left that very important detail and passed that incident off as petty, when it really wasn't. He has no idea how hard those 4 years were for me. I was totally on my own with barely anyone to have my back, be it at school or at home, and I'll pray that no other kid has to go through something like that. It broke me. And no, I don't think I'll ever just get over it. They just want to act like the victims right now and make it seem like everything was my fault, but unfortunately, I'm not going to let them get away with it. I've posted my side of the story as well, so they can't control the narrative. It's just been 15 minutes since I posted, and I don't have the nerve to check my notifications right now because I'm not prepared for all the hate that I might get. But I know for sure a couple of my friends and some family members definitely will stand by my side on this one. I'm just hoping that the positivity outweighs the negativity. Honestly, I'm just done with my family. They're literally the human version of a bad migraine, and I can't wait for this drama to blow over. Update 3. Hey everybody. So it's been about 3 days since I shared my side of the story, and it got quite popular among people who went to school with my brother and me. Unfortunately, that post also reached another woman from my brother's year, and she publicly dragged my brother for lying to her about his marital status. She'd read my post and then read the post that my dad had posted for context, and since it was a public post, she'd been able to find it easily. So then she put 2 and 2 together and shared that apparently my brother, who was acting so devastated that his wife had cheated on him with his friend, was not too far behind her. About a month ago, this woman had been visiting the city since she'd moved out of state after high school ended. My brother replied to one of her stories on Instagram, struck up a conversation with her and asked her out on a date, and they did get intimate as well later on. He didn't tell her he was married, and he very cleverly used a burner account to text her instead of his real profile where he had pictures with Chloe. Apparently, he uses that account to stalk women he knows, so at least he's smarter than Chloe. So this unsuspecting woman kept her meeting with him a secret for ages, and then when she left, my brother had even promised to keep in touch, but then blocked her everywhere after she went back, and it was only now that she found out the whole truth. It was crazy that my brother had done this, but it wasn't surprising because, after all, a cheater will always remain a cheater. It's just hilarious that he ended up with another one of his kind as well, and now they're caught in a divorce, and what's going to be a very interesting custody battle because Chloe doesn't even know who the father of her child is yet. I've obviously been having the time of my life hearing about all that drama that's been going on with them because this was the guy who was extremely cruel to me as a teenager and scarred me for life. And now life was dealing him even worse cards. This is just karma at its best, and it's so damned entertaining for me because I don't care about them now, so I'm just watching it all unfold like a real-life soap opera. Stay tuned for more stories from our girl relationships.